The Gotham City Sirens are back, and so is Punchline. We follow all things Punchline on this channel, so I'm ready. I'm here. Me, when there's a Punchline sighting. It's like my bat signal. The original Gotham City Sirens was a 26-issue series that ran from 2009 to 2011, so until the New 52 relaunch. It was helmed by Paul Dini of Batman TAS acclaim. He was also one of Harley Quinn's creators, and she was one of the three main Sirens who were in this book. Alongside her were Poison Ivy and Catwoman. The series followed their bizarre and oft-times humor-tinged adventures. 2024 saw the return of the Gotham City Sirens, post-Rebirth, post-Dark Knight's Death Metal, post-Dark Crisis, post-many things. They returned for a 4-issue time recording mini-series, this one written by LEah Williams, with art by Matteo Lolli. So, how is it? We're gonna take a look at it, and also take a look at what Punchline's been up to. I'm Sasha, this is Casually Comics, and I hope you're ready for internet references. It is Punchline, so it makes sense they'll come up with this character, who has been positioned from very on as being very tied to internet culture and internet savvy. It's mostly surrounding content creation and those spaces. Which platform they're focusing on varies. It tends to have more of a YouTube slant, although for today's outing, it's veering a bit more towards Twitch. Not that's the first time it's done that. You saw some of that in Punchline the Gotham game. That was playing with a bit of both. This Gotham City Sirens mini is going to dive deep into some Twitch metas, it looks like. The main cover, for there are several for this outing, is by Terry Dodson and contains a large "We're back" speech bubble meant to appeal to the fans of the classic series. The Old West theme is a thing, it's part of the issue as well, so it is relevant. It's not just the ladies can be in cowboy hats and very nice fitting vests, or maybe it was and then they worked it backwards into the series, who knows. As we're getting into this time of recording relatively close to when it came out, spoiler warning, you have been warned. Overall, this is not a very dialogue heavy issue. It's also an extremely brief read with a lot left to be inferred through the art, which sometimes works well, other times it leaves gaps. Now, some of that is intentional. There's meant to be a mystery element here. What's going on? By the end, the idea is hopefully you'll be suitably intrigued. And of course, the question we'll pose at the end is, are you? The issue opens with a woman being chased by some shirtless men on horseback. If you've read the solicits, you'll know these are called the Nasty Boys, DC's Nasty Boys, and they've been referred to as himbos, and some variant covers have shown that they work for Punchline, who is obviously the villain of this issue because they give some context cues, so that even if you didn't know that going into it, there are things right away that are going to showcase that she's going to be a prominent feature in it. The woman being chased is revealed to be White Rabbit, Jaina Hudson, a character who debuted in the New 52, and who can create a duplicate of herself, that being the White Rabbit. They give her name and power set as the issue goes on, but it's much more in the organic sense. It's less in the stopping with a little character narration box or an editor's note or anything like that. It is something that if you want to know more about her, you'll have to look more into it. It's the kind of thing that may make you want to seek out more about the character, or it may just leave one confused. Mileage is going to vary. Now, speaking of how we know that it's Punchline, there are giant XO ads everywhere advertising something that we'll see as XO Punch. They're huge neon adverts. XO are not only the markings on Punchline's boots, it's also the name of her street drug, which featured heavily in her own series and was mentioned in Catwoman's. You know I'm always looking for places to put editor's notes. Speaking of Catwoman, she grabs Jaina, while the shirtless cowboys grab the White Rabbit. Meanwhile, there's a lot of meanwhiles in this, Harley is out walking her hyenas. And it must be known that Williams does a fun Harley. So far, it's only issue 1. But from what is presented here, there's a good balance between the quirk, the danger, the intelligence. It's not that one is pulling very hard, and it's usually the quirk and some Deadpool elements, but those aren't overpowering her characterization here. The character isn't constantly manic, which can happen on occasion. Harley is taken aback when a herd of XO-branded bison go stampeding by. Are those stampeding bison? Nope, not my problem. However, despite not wanting to be involved, she gets dragged in where she's nearly run over by 2 men who are hunting these bison dressed like cowboys. What you doing? The bison are shown to be machines filled with some kind of electric neon purple looking liquid, which we'll be able to infer just a little further on is the XO Punch drink. I almost said purple drink because it's purple. That XO Punch has been seen on signs since the opening chase and will also be mentioned in the next scene. For this one, what's going to be presented that one can then draw from is that this is some kind of game. It's some kind of online game that's being played out in real life. I told you this was a bad idea. We haven't leveled up enough yet for bison hunts.
Skillless, you dog!
We're gonna get permabanned for going out of bounds.
So let's log off before they find out.
We just bought these avatars.
There'll be more. See you on the other side, cowboy_Ligma749.
The online vernacular that is utilized here is utilized fairly well. The way it's worked into the sentences is less trying to be current than it could have been. The one that stands out the most is Ligma, and even there the choice to make it colloquial rather than use it in the joking context in terms of trying to get somebody to say Ligma is probably the stronger choice, instead by having it worked into the username. It makes it feel like the dated meme that it is, even though it still comes up. Ligma's a classic at this point. R.I.P. those who died of Ligma.
Is Ninja dead? Yeah, I'm actually Ninja's evil twin. The other Ninja died of Ligma, unfortunately, so.
But miles will vary. For some, these things coming up at all will feel cringe and try hard. For others, it will depend upon how it's implemented and whether they feel that it's landing well inside of the space. It's also meant to be a bit more comedic because there's that tone throughout all of this. And so in that sense, for some, it may be a bit more bearable, while again, for others, it might not be. These two log off, leaving their avatars as dead husks. Meanwhile, this leads to a discussion about XO that's happening on TV. XO Punch, it turns out, is a sought-after energy drink. So sought after it's causing riots. People are breaking into things. And this is most likely a reference to KSI and Logan Paul's energy drink of Prime, which has the same effect in the UK.
You're allowed one of each, by the way. Who took them out of your hand? You're taking 4 or 5 bottles, you idiots.
It's just something about in the UK. People will fight for Prime in the UK, but in other places, it's not the same and it'll just sit there in huge blocks. It's a bit amusing. But that reference does also showcase some knowledge of the various ins and outs of different parts of influencer culture, specifically surrounding the marketing and branding, which is what they want to use for this XO Punch. It also highlights how influencer brands can in some ways be successful even if the owners have controversies. And that's the energy that's also going to be brought to Punchline. While XO Punch is banned from being manufactured within Gotham City limits, it's not banned from being sold. An unfortunate loophole for the owner, Be Quick. Tell me, sir, what was it like when the riot broke out? Stupid. It was stupid. I laughed. What can I say? That made me laugh. Poison Ivy has been testing the XO compound for reasons. She also has people that are held hostage there for reasons that she then feeds to her plants for reasons. Now, Harley and Ivy in this are in a bit more of callous villain mode. They're pretty quick to kill and discard people. So for those who enjoy them a bit more in that mode, they may enjoy this characterization more than the veering towards anti-hero role that they sometimes occupy. So in this you're gonna get things like, as mentioned, Poison Ivy feeding these men to her hapless plants. So are the people that Harley brought, for they are just husks. The body is but a shell now. Klingon rules. Although we did actually see their minds burn out, so we know it's true. Still pretty gruesome though. You can feed them to Betsy in that case though. Harley goes on that she's not sure what's going on. Maybe it's a marketing gimmick or something that's gone wrong, but she figures that maybe they should call Selena because Selena is gonna occupy the tech space in this. Catwoman then does show up and say that something weird is going on, and she thinks whatever it is all connected, and she's gonna go figure it out. Thanks to Jaina. Maintaining a connection to her split off half, the comic uses that as an opportunity to follow where the cowboys are going, which showcases XO and how, like the Bison and the Avatars, there are more people seemingly running on it, because there are some Westworld vibes here, but how they've come to be is a bit up in the air. They're being used to manufacture it, they're being kept naked at points. It's unclear at the juncture at the time of this recording if they're made from the drink or if this is the fate of people who drink the drink, if you're consumed by the drink.
Here, Jason, take some.
Enough is never enough.
But we do get confirmation on who's behind it in the form of Punchline, who is now, drumroll, a hot tub streamer. She's on some kind of Twitch-esque website down for this version of the most dangerous or the deadliest game. Maybe Kick, but also still Twitch. And they go all out, they talk about how they can buy the drink and that'll get them something called Punch Bucks and they can cash those in. All the ring lights, the green screen, it's looking pretty legit. We see that when the audience asks for a headshot, she lets someone out of a cage and uses one of these avatars to shoot them. Oh, and don't forget my lovelies, with every XO Punch purchase, you get 5 Punch Bucks for in-game currency or loot boxes. She's selling surprise mechanics. You can even cash in your Punch Bucks for a chance to play with me. That's enough for now, I think. Tune in next time, boys. And with that, the issue ends with a teaser saying to come back to discover just what is going on. So, some things to go through, and let's start off with Punchline, my beloved. This is an excellent way to tie the different parts of Punchline together. It's playing with her online roots, which they really started to ramp up when she did her apology video post-Joker War. But it also is a unique way for her to perpetuate crimes that hasn't really been explored, and there's so much that goes on in the online space and the different ways that crimes are perpetrated there, especially when it comes to the sale of drugs. A lot of it happens on social media through back channels. Instagram is a huge problem with it, for example. Snapchat, anything where things vanish. TikTok, where people are telling people to contact each other and DM. There's a whole world out there that hasn't really been mined because lots of times mentality hasn't entirely caught up, or not everybody's aware of what's going on. This is an opportunity to put Punchline in a unique space, carve out something niche. Instead of having her go after the pre-existing drug trade like she did in the Gotham game, this is a new space that she could uniquely occupy that would make her something different amongst Batman's rogues. It's not an avenue that they really focus on or pursue. It helps that in this depiction there's some clear familiarity with online streamer culture and also some influencer culture, stuff about personal branding, marketing, how you tie it all back together, how it can be something that could be fine or could also grow insidious and dangerous. Punchline's playing upon parasocial relationships, promising rewards for those who spend and buy her product. Also, this is a way for her to continue to experiment on people with her drugs, as she had been shown to be doing multiple times. It was something she enjoyed doing, and this seems to be a way for her to get test subjects to come to her. And also, she's earning money and getting her face out there. This keeps her dark, cruel, and sociopathic, and it really is a through line for all the things they've done with her so far. The idea that she would have followers tracks. She already did at the end of Trial of Punchline. This also follows real life examples of people maintaining followings despite controversies. It bears out. And that's the idea of if she's even showing her face, because she doesn't necessarily have to be, not everybody does, or if people even think it's her, because people could just assume that somebody cosplaying as her, which would also be a viable option, or this could be some kind of dark web thing. There are options because they haven't fully explained how she's putting herself out there as of yet, but there are ways that it could be viable and would make sense. This is a move that sounds like it should be cringe, but pairs well with the character, and then there's some people who think the character is cringe, so they may also agree. It also introduces some potential conflicts because this makes her a very public villain, and not all other villains want to deal with that. She's putting herself out there and potentially making herself a target, putting herself in a position where other people can track her down, but she may not care, which would be an interesting angle to take. Okay, boomer, but thematically, instead of actually having her say it. While the hot tub meta is not the latest, it's also an iconic meta and one that is still utilized. It's also a visually distinct one. It's not the same as, say, putting the green screen on the body and then projecting the gameplay onto it, or the plastic chair meta. Maybe, I mean, there's time. This is issue 1. She can do those things later. On the flip side, this is a very specific part of online culture, and for those who don't partake in or potentially aren't aware of or just aren't around this kind of thing, this may feel pretty impenetrable or just odd. And even if they are aware of it, they may not connect with it or want to explore it. It may be alienating. Some people may find that it's too far, not something they're interested in. For those who don't occupy certain parts of the online space, it can just come across as an other world. That's going to be something where mileage varies. Now, as for something more general to discuss about this issue is how little it reveals. There is something to be said for assuming the intelligence of your audience. And this does that by placing some things in the background or leaving some threads for the reader to connect, and it is appreciated. However, there are moments where it goes a bit far and leaves a few too many questions, or it just doesn't connect threads that may be necessary to build the mystery. Ask the question of why are these characters doing this so that you can then as a reader care. And when it gets to that point, it may appear confusing. There are just lots of questions. For example, why are the three of them working together? Why is Poison Ivy even looking into Exo Punch in the first place? Why does Catwoman think that these things are connected? Now, there is a reason why Catwoman would think this, in that she is aware of Exo the drug from her past encounters with Punchline, but that's not mentioned here. This would have been something that would have been an asset. The idea that Catwoman is sure that Punchline is up to something when she sees this Exo Punch go on the market, and when she sees it affect the streets, she's concerned, and so she may go to Pam to get it analyzed, see if it has any links to the original Exo drug. This would have a reason to bring the three characters together, because then she could show up there with one half of White Rabbit, and then you could still have the mystery play out with Harley, who would then encounter the game. But then there would be a bit more of an element of these plots coming together, a bit more of an urgency surrounding needing to find Punchline, because at the moment there isn't really a drive to do so. The mystery is just a bit too out of reach. Right now, most of it's relying on the idea of just wanting to see these characters again and interact. Have them interact, that is. Overall, very little happened this issue. It was such a brief read. It does feel like a touch more could have been done with the space that was there. The idea isn't bad. It could be very interesting, but more could have been given in this first issue. However, it must also be noted that this series is going to come out weekly, so perhaps that will alter the feel of the book or how it reads. The humor balance in this book is solid. It has jokes, but there's also a heavy undercurrent of darkness throughout everything that also penetrates the jokes, which lands well since this is a book where the main characters are all, or have been at some point, villains.
Some may feel there is too much humor, or may worry that this is going to end up as a gamers are toxic or deserve bad things to happen to them piece of rhetoric.
The contrast between these moments and how bright the art is also fairly pleasant. The juxtaposition pops, but the colors are more neon and less bright kids show. It almost feels sci-fi or psychedelic in some panels. Overall, the art in this book is quite nice to look at. Triona Farrell, who did the colors, really does something to give them an energy. The book feels literally electric at points. The characterizations seem fairly solid for some characters, less so for others, and others really haven't done enough for it to be discernible. Now, on a personal note, my personal hope is that Punchline stays villainous. Please, no redemption arc for Punchline. My heart can't take it. I can see this one landing a variety of ways for people. Some having fun with it, some not enjoying it at all, some feeling it has heavy Hello Fellow Kids vibes, some not caring enough about the mystery to carry on, just not enough there to grab them. So I really want to hear how it's landing for you. As someone who is probably too online, it tracked for me and the references were well placed, and the understanding of at least Twitch style content creation and branding felt legitimate, at least so far in the first issue. It even dodged the classic trope at this point of making an issue that's about online content focus on online hate comments. Time of recording, that is a breath of fresh air. Again, it's the first issue, maybe it'll get there. Punchline needs to oil herself up though. She's not on her A game. And some personalized emotes. She would probably have people asking her to have the Joker come on and stream all the time. On the whole, this wasn't the most substantive issue, and if one starts to compare it to classic Gotham City Sirens, with some May, that feeling increases, because if one was hoping for it to be returned to that, they may be disappointed. However, on its own, it's a fun little outing, and could shape up to be a decent mini, and maybe finally a hook for Punchline. Or maybe I'm dreaming. For how quickly this read, the price does also need to be considered. This was $3.99 USD. And so if you're not on one of those unlimited services, that's something to consider. If there is enough here to want to go issue by issue, or if you want to trade weight. Those are just my thoughts, and I want to hear yours. What did you think? Did you have fun with this? Do you disagree? Think the online references did not match, did not feel authentic at all? Did you indeed cringe? Do you feel no one was in character? Did you have fun with it and enjoy it? Talk to me. I'd love to hear from you down below. And while you're down there, please do all the YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking some time today to spend discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.